G'day guys, welcome to 2024. I think we could be entering a new golden era and massive changes are ahead in the near future. China are really in a good position to take over the industry and follow the playbook of Japan. But there is one dark horse country could ruin all of China's plans, and they're really in a strong position to be the predominant force in the motorcycle industry as a major manufacturing hub for the motorcycle industry moving forward.
Start it up.
The dark horse I'm talking about is India. They've got the population numbers, they've got the skills to build the motorcycles, they've also got the love of motorcycles as well. They love two wheels over there. And to put it in perspective, the kind of numbers they're putting out. Hero Motorcorp, their #1 manufacturer of motorcycles, they produced over 5 million units last year in 2023. BMW globally produced just over 200,000 units. So that's a staggering difference. Number 2 was Honda India with just over 4 million units. And then we've got Bajaj Auto, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with. They have the production agreement with KTM and Triumph. They made just over 2 million units. Safe to say they're definitely a motorcycle powerhouse. But let's dive into the features that really could set them in motion to be the dark horse and upset China in the race to dominate the motorcycle industry in the years to come. Now, the big one here that really makes them the dark horse and probably is the strongest argument against China and for India is demographics. Now, demographics play a big part in the economic engine of a country. If you've got a strong base of youthful people coming up through the workforce, building lives, purchasing items, that's what drives the economy. That's what keeps you going, increasing GDP. That is what you want. You do not want a top-heavy, upside-down triangle of a demographic where you've got lots of old people and not too many young people. And that's what China has. They have plenty of boomers and people aging out of the workforce, slowing down on their spending and not consuming as many goods as they once did. So the younger generations which drive the economy just aren't there in the same numbers as they currently are for China moving into the future. On top of that, getting skilled labor is going to be more and more challenging for these big manufacturers because they're going to be having to fight over those skilled workers. That could cause a scenario where they do have to pay the workers more and more money. Of course, it is China, so that could not happen. So that is a strong case against China. And India is the opposite. They have a massive base of younger people coming up through the economy, and it's really driving them forward at the moment. Demographics are going to play a big part, I think. It might not be the deciding factor, but it's definitely something to keep your eye on, and it is a decent case to be made for why India might be the next dominant motorcycle superpower over China, because China just won't have the workforce and the people to buy the products that they're producing, whereas India will. The next one, just like China, is low-cost manufacturing. The manufacturing industry for motorcycles is fantastic, and they know how to make those motorcycles at a very low cost, which is very appealing. So it's attracted huge manufacturers like KTM and Triumph that have got agreements with Bajaj, Honda, Suzuki, Yamaha are all there, as well as Harley Davidson, and they make specific motorcycles for India because they recognize that that market is so important. And of course, there's a lot of money to be made, so they know how to make motorcycles and they know how to make them cheaply. Big manufacturers cannot resist. So that is a big positive in attracting more manufacturers to your way of thinking over to your country to produce more and more motorcycles. So this is a trend we're going to be seeing more and more as more manufacturers identify that India might be the place to go to build your motorcycles so that you can make them at an affordable price, keep your profit margins, and enter a market that is very lucrative. The other big deal here is India doesn't have the same stigma that China does. People have strong opinions of China and will not purchase their products based on their particular beliefs, which is perfectly acceptable. India, they don't have that same stigma. While they do have the stigma of poor quality in the Western world, but we don't hold the same grudge politically, ideologically against India as we do with China. And the perception of cheap and unreliable is an easier thing to overcome than the ideological and political frustration that people have with China. Whereas India's hurdle really is only in improving the product, which is a simple thing to do, and we've seen Royal Enfield make that leap. They've gone from making somewhat shonky single-cylinder bullets to making a whole lineup surrounded by 350cc singles, which are brand new. We've got the 650 twins, which are absolutely amazing. And then we've just got the brand new Himalayan 450, while still sticking to that Indian ethos, affordability, efficiency, and ease of use. Royal Enfield have also been really good at this, and that's identifying points in the market where major established manufacturers are just ignoring the consumer. And there's two fantastic examples. One is the Himalayan 450. Clearly, they've identified that the place that the KLR 650 used to dominate in, straddling the line between the adventure and dual sport while still being value focused with enough performance to get the job done, just to explore the back roads, nothing crazy off-road. That market has been left wide open by the manufacturers. No one seems to be interested about filling that void. Royal Enfield clearly identified that and is moving in with force. And there's a lot of people that are very enthusiastic for that bike because it's exactly what they want. The other bike that I think is a great example of this in the lineup is specifically the Royal Enfield Super Meteor 650. With Harley Davidson killing their traditional Sportster series, of which I owned one, Royal Enfield swooped in with a great looking little 650, characterful engine, is affordable unlike the Harley Davidson, and have just absolutely ate everyone's lunch. And if they can do it, clearly other major manufacturers in India can do the same thing. With the amount of R&D, resources, skilled labor, and money that they've got to throw around, it's an achievable thing to do. And if they focus on those three things that I always bang on about, and that's affordability, features, and performance, then really there's nothing that can stop these guys. If you can be competitive in those three features, consumers are going to want your product. But while Royal Enfield is a great shining example, it's not clear cut that all the other companies are going to follow, or that that is actually in their playbook. So let's discuss some of the challenges and some of the reasons why India might not make it to the top of the pyramid. I think one of the challenges they've got to face is quality. There's a different level of quality, in my opinion, that is expected for the Western market as compared to a lot of motorcycles made in India. That's not a knock against the Indian market. Their focus is very firmly on affordability. And when you're focused so heavily on price, that means you're not going to be using the most expensive top quality components. That's a hurdle that they're going to have to get over, is convincing the Western market that they can make a quality motorcycle. Like I said, Royal Enfield have been doing that in recent years, so there's no reason why other companies can't follow that blueprint, but it's a definite stigma that India faces if they're wanting to export their motorcycles on a global scale to the Western market. Capacity is another one. Royal Enfield has noticed this. That's why they've moved to the 650 twins, which have done fantastically over here in the Western markets, where you find yourself out on the open road a lot more. We kind of expect a little more power and performance. We do have a little bit of a bias to bigger bikes here in the West. So having a bigger capacity bike on offer really would be a smart decision, and a lot of these Indian companies really have laser focus on these small capacity bikes, which is what they should be doing because that's what the market wants over there. But if they're looking outside of India, they really need to shift focus to some bigger capacity motorcycles, and that's going to require a whole lot of R&D. Could they do it? Yes, they can, but there's going to be a lot of learning curves along the way. There's a competition as well. China is definitely in the race. I'd say they're a step ahead of India. They're a far more developed economy, and they've really been pumping out some impressive motorcycles lately. They also know how to make some big capacity bikes over there, so they're already a step ahead in that department as well. The other big manufacturing hubs aren't going to take this lying down, either Japan, Europe, America. They're not going to sit on their hands and watch their market share dwindle away. Competition is going to be very fierce, but that is a good thing for us as consumers, because more competition there is, the better products are on offer. That usually starts price wars as well, so it can only mean good things if you're buying a motorcycle. So a positive for us, but it's definitely going to be fierce competition for anyone trying to climb the ladder to the top of the industry. And the last one isn't specifically a challenge, it's just a question of whether India need to or want to expand to the Western market in a big way. With the numbers they're pumping out in their internal industry in the millions of units, really do they need to shift focus to outside of India? That's a big question to ask. I think ultimately the answer is yes. As India's economy expands, they can only start to look at the outside. Every business, no matter big or small, is always looking to grow bigger, to improve, to increase its revenue. That is the bottom line. I think there are a lot of brands that will get to the point where they think that is the next frontier. I'd love to know your thoughts on all of this. Do you think India have a chance to really be a dominant force in the motorcycle industry, or do you think they're fighting a losing battle against the juggernaut that is China? Love to know your thoughts, chuck them down below. And as always guys, don't forget to stay shiny side up.